welcome back to another episode of Tyler Talk, the only place to get your latest sporting news wherever you are. My name is Tyler Brown, and today KB is back. Welcome back, KB.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Right, so let's just get into last week's show when I obviously talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers re-signing Big Ben. I said a lot of comments saying that you guys are going around in circles and that you might not draft a QB this year, but next year's prospects aren't the best. Like, what's your opinion on that?
I would have liked to see another QB this year. I'm not necessarily upset with Big Ben coming back. I don't think there's like a huge downside to it. I think the main downside is, as you said, I think the future should be looking to like move on at this point. I think it's time for like the next phase, and we've got a better defense. The weapons on offense as well don't really utilize Big Ben's strengths the best. But I think as well, in a league where you need to have that proven quarterback. I do understand why they brought him back for now anyway. Hopefully it's not another 2, 3, 4 years.
No, 100%. Like it is, like I completely agree with you. And obviously the point of making that, you guys do look like you need to move on, but let's just not make a habit of keeping him back for so many years. Right, so today we are going to talk about free agency frenzy because this week has been crazy. Players have been going all over the place, and the Patriots and my Patriots have been making some big deals. I'm going to talk about that as well. Also, we're going to talk about Drew Brees retiring and look at his career and whether or not he's, if he's one of the top quarterbacks of all time. Then we're going to go into our England next side after Gareth Southgate has finally picked his 26-man squad. Then after that, we're going to go into a bit of a controversy situation for referees versus managers. Who's in the right? This obviously goes on because managers are trying to talk to referees after games and they're getting red cards or yellow cards for it when they shouldn't really. But we'll talk about that later on. And then finally, we're going to go into NBA news with Dame Lillard. Is he MVP or are the Blazers holding him back from getting that? So before we get into today's show, I need to do a couple of things for me. We need you to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications on all future videos. Also, when you're on Instagram tonight, and we know you will be, let's be honest, we need you to hit TYB_talk. That's right, TYB_talk to follow us. And also, well, give me and KB a follow. You can do as well. There's our handles right there. So without further ado, let's get into today's show. So quarterback Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints has finally retired. He has been in the league for 20 years. And KB, what's your initial response to the news when you heard it the other day?
Not shocked. I don't think anyone's like truly surprised. I think there was rumors about it happening last year as well, to be honest. So not shocked, but definitely like one of the big names in the game. Like he's going to be gone now, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously, like Philip Rivers obviously retired as well this year, which was in terms of for the NFL, it's a big player to use because he's such a loud player who he doesn't swear. He always says fudging or like Bleacher Report did like a cartoon show based on the NFL, and Philip Rivers is one of my favorite characters based in that show because he'd obviously want to swear so much because he gets angry. And the fact that they play on the whole fact that Eli Manning and Philip Rivers have to switch over is just a funny narrative to have. But obviously going back to Drew Brees, I don't know. I feel like it did and didn't surprise me because I thought because of the way that he lost to Tom Brady, you might go, you know what? Let's try one more time. Like let's just have there's no loss from having it one. It's not like because he's not left the Saints in a bad situation. Like. I mean, obviously they're going to have, Jameis Winston is now the QB. We'll go into that later on, but he's not left him in a desperate state for a QB. So I feel like running it back one more time just to see how far you get, but then it's like, when do you stop? So I
was gonna say I feel like that's been the case for the past few years, and you had the whole thing with the flag or the non-flag against the Rams. I feel like every year the Saints have been good enough to get there, and then something's happened, and you're like, okay, we'll run it back, and we'll see again next year. But like you said, how many times are you going to run it back? Like eventually, no, just kill it.
Yeah, 100%. So let's look at his whole career for the past 20 years. So not a lot of people might know this, but he initially got drafted to the San Diego Chargers, who's obviously now the LA Chargers since moving. In 2001, he was the 33rd pick, which is the first round in round 2. He played there for a few years. He did all right. You racked up. You got some quite impressive stats. Then he got injured in 2005, and then he obviously got traded to the New Orleans Saints. And since then, for me, he's changed football in Louisiana. That whole state is thankful to Drew Brees, in my opinion. I think if Drew Brees didn't go to New Orleans, football would not be as big as it is now. Because obviously, you got to think of, obviously, we're going to go out of sport a little bit, but you think of like, the Katrina incident and everything like that. Obviously, it put a stop to everything in Louisiana, in the whole state. So to have a quarterback come in and make such a difference, it's amazing. So obviously, we look at his stats here. His record is 172 to 114, a nearly 70% passer rating. That's unheard of. Like, what? 80,000 yards in passing, 571 touchdowns. And obviously he's almost had half of that in interceptions. But then you look at his achievements, 13 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro. He won a Super Bowl in 2010 and got the MVP that same year. 2004 Comeback Player of the Year because he got injured quite a few times in San Diego. 2008 and 2011 Offensive Player of the Year. And the 2009 Burt Bell Award, for people who don't know what that award is, it's basically the MVP award, but decided by coaches and players instead of the media. That's what the MVP award is. That's voted by media. The Burt Bell Award is awarded by coaches and players who decide that player. But what a career he's had. Like, obviously he's not got the Super Bowl rings to have that, but you look at his records, like, he's the best passing QB of all time. In my opinion, he's like, obviously Tom Brady's the best QB of all time, but best passing QB of all time has to be Drew Brees.
I think as well, a lot of them records, it's if he's not 1, he's like 2 or 3. And if he's not 2 or 3, he's 4 or 5. Like, he's up there in all the categories, so you can't dispute it.
Yeah. So here we go. So some of the records that he has got. So he is the first player in NFL history with over 7,000 completions. Tom Brady currently has 6,778, and Brett Favre, who is third, has 6,300. I like when numbers round off. I think that's really weird. I can do that. In a game where it's every yard counts and it rallies off, I think it's perfect. Consecutive games with TD passes, 54. That's like the only player that's closest to him is Johnny Unitas, who played way back in the day with 47. And then you've got 571 passing touchdowns. He's second in history after Brady. But that's because Brady's been playing a lot longer than he has. Like I said, he's obviously a close second. And then you look at his passing percentages. In 2018, he was 74.4. 2019, 74.3. Like, it's ridiculous when you look at the things that he's done over his time. I think, and it's like, when you look at the case of, is he in there with like the top 10 or top 5 QBs? I put him so high just for the reasons like are on the screen now. He is the greatest free agency signing ever. Tom Brady going to the Buccaneers, that's not going to be close because Tom Brady's been great already. So going to another team, it's like, of course he's going to be the same player. But you think of a player who went from San Diego Chargers to a crumbling Louisiana and saves football in Louisiana and does all this amazing stuff. And he's obviously the greatest free agency signing. Like a lot of people are going to say about, Randy Moss's and all this lot, but it's obvious that he is up there. What's your opinion on that one?
Yeah. Definitely he's up there. I think, like you said, in terms of the whole, it's not even just on the field. You could sit here on all day and talk about what he's done on the field in terms of numbers and records broken, what he's done off the field as well for that organization and for all those people. that puts him up there as well. Because that's one of the things I love about American sports. It's almost like the players come synonymous with like the states and the cities that they're in, and like represent them, and it'd be like a proper someone for everyone to look up to. Because I feel like when you say Louisiana, you kind of do think of Drew Brees, and that's not something that especially in English sports, when you say Manchester, no one's thinking about Pep Guardiola. Do you get me? Like, it's not the same. I feel like, and what Drew Brees has done for that whole community puts him up there as well.
Yeah, and like obviously there's a thing at the bottom saying he's had 5,000-yard passing seasons. That is the only, I think it's like what? I think compared to the rest of the NFL, no one's ever done it multiple times. He's the only person who's done it more than once. But the players who have done it at least once are Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, and Big Ben, and obviously Patrick Mahomes. But it's when you think of like he's had 5 and the rest of the NFL history has had 7. That's like it's crazy to think of that. He's like I said, he's the best passing QB of all time. So obviously I've put him at number 4 for top QBs of all time. But a lot of people are going to say, he's not got the Super Bowl rings, he's not got all that. But that doesn't, like, when you think of the records and the stuff that he's done, I easily put him above the likes of Aaron Rodgers and Dan Marino and Brett Favre and stuff like that. Like it's easy. It's an easy decision for me, because if you think of like say in next 10 years time, you say, oh, rally off QBs that aren't Tom Brady. Drew Brees will be my first 2, if not my first choice.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's obviously you just got to give the man a bit of respect in terms of he's not won. He's not won the big one more than once, but he's set so many records that he's obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer, clearly. Like let's not drift over that really quick. Like, he is definitely a Hall of Famer when it's his time to come. But when you think about his legacy that he's left in not just Louisiana but in NFL, American football sport, it's an easy choice that he's up there in the top 5. So that's all we got. So that is all we got time for Drew Brees. Next up, we're going to talk about the crazy week we've had in the NFL free agency. This is Tal Brown and KB of Tal Talk. Stay tuned for more. Crazy week for NFL free agency. I think altogether we've had over 30 players come and go to different teams, and we've had quite some amazing re-signs happening. So we're going to obviously go through the players that that have stayed and who have gone, and then we're going to talk about the winners and losers from this year's free agency. So let's talk about, because there's less of them that have stayed, let's talk about the big players that have stayed. So let's talk about the Buccaneers 3. Tom Brady, Shaquille Barrett, Gronkowski have officially re-signed, as well as Chris Godwin, who got franchise tagged, but that was a few weeks ago. But is this the sign that the Bucs are actually going to get back to the Super Bowl this year?
I wouldn't be surprised. I definitely wouldn't be surprised. I think it's a case of, I think they had a very slow start to the season last year, and if I'm not wrong, they had a bye week, and then after the bye week, they just started smashing teams. So I think it's a case of we got it rolling. We hit the playoffs. We steamed through the playoffs, won the championship, and now you've got to run it back. You have to go again. I don't think anyone in that dressing room was thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm not coming back next year." Like, it has to be done.
No, 100%. People are starting to call it the Tom Brady effect. It's like, I've said since Tom Brady's left that players like going back to when he was at New England, players never went to New England for Bill Belichick, in my opinion. They went for Tom Brady, 100%. Like, obviously, Bill Belichick is one of, if not the greatest NFL coach in history, but people went because of Tom Brady and what he brings to the team, and how he can motivate you and inspire you to get the win, no matter at any cost. Even if he has to run it 3 or 4 yards to get the first down, he will do it for the team. And that's a QB that he is. He's that's why he is, in my opinion, the GOAT. But yeah, like you said, they had to run it back. Like, it's it's just a thing. Like, why change something if it's been so good? And you said that, like, they obviously didn't have a preseason, and you had a bit of a bad start because of that preseason lack. And then once that bye week hit, they just rolled with it. So like I said, it'd be stupid not to. And then obviously you've got other players that have re-signed for the team. So you got Jameis Winston. There's talks about Taysom Hill getting a £130 million dollar contract, but to be obviously whether he's going to be a QB or wide receiver or running back or I don't know defensive end or whatever he wants to play. Like who's your QB1 for the Saints?
Definitely Winston. I'm to be honest, I've just heard about that Taysom Hill contract and my jaw just dropped. That would be madness. But I would go Winston. I think for obviously Drew Brees just leaving as well, in terms of a scheme fit, it fits as well. I mean, not Drew Brees recently, but in terms of like the passing offense, a lot of deep balls, that sort of stuff, over the top offense. I feel like Winston suits it a lot more than Hill will.
Yeah, so like obviously, like I think I spoke about this to one of our friends, and it's DK. We all know that if like we'll probably get him on the show one time to give his opinion, if he wants to. But it's I sort of made the point of like Taysom Hill. What's your opinion on that contract though? Like, do you think Taysom Hill deserves such a big contract like that? Obviously, DK's point was saying that like, because he plays more than one position, he deserves to get that money. But then it's like, well, no, because he's not the star of the team. He's just able to play a lot of places. What's your opinion on that one?
I definitely don't think he should be, unless you're saying he's the guy, he's QB1, because you're not getting paid that much to play any other position, right? First of all, so he's QB1. He's going to lead this team, which I think is debatable whether you can anyway. I don't know if the people in the dressing room even know if you can, because I'm pretty sure last season when Brees went down and Hill started, I'm pretty sure there were rumors in the dressing room that a lot of them wanted Winston to start. So I don't think it will be the smartest decision on the Saints' part to give it Hill, but I feel like they've always defended him. They've always like been with him. Do you get me? So I don't think it will be a good decision, but it wouldn't surprise me too much if they did it.
100%. So let's just move on to the rest of the players that have re-signed. Leonard Williams for the New York Giants, obviously big defensive end, made some key plays for the New York Giants last year in terms of keeping them, above the first picks of the NFL draft. It's I feel like this is a decision that they had to. It's not a case of like they wanted to. They had to make this decision to sign him. Otherwise, because they have lost like a lot of key players in the past few years, Eli Manning, Odell Beckham Jr., players like that just to rally off. It was like I said, it's sort of a thing where they had to, not really they wanted to. If they, not saying they didn't want to, but
Yeah, I feel like for the pass rushers, a lot of teams it's a very important position, if not what the most important in terms of your defense, because that's what's bringing the pressure on the opposition's offense. Like you need that pass rush, whether it's from your DNs or your linebackers. The pass rush is very, very important.
100%. And then obviously we go on to Trent Williams from San Francisco. He's obviously re-signed for his team. Again, I feel like for an offensive tackle like Trent Williams, he is probably he's probably what, like if I had to bring him to the Patriots team, I'd sign him for no matter what money. Like he's such a talent, and he's been around for a while now. So he knows the game inside and out, and he's a player that if you need someone to protect your quarterback, like Jimmy Garoppolo or for the 49ers, Trent Williams is a person you need to keep.
Yeah, definitely. The experience he brings as well is like you can't pay enough for that. So it's definitely, like you said before with the Giants, it's not a move, not necessarily you want to make, what you have to do. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, 100%. And then obviously the final one that came out this week is Aaron Jones, running back for the Green Bay Packers, 4 years, $48 million deal. again, it's a you have to sort of thing. You know, you need a running back to support your wide receivers to have a bit of a run game. And Aaron Jones is no exception. He had a great breakout. He had a great season last season. And again, it's just you have to sign him, sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree fully. I think with the Green Bay Packers as well, having any type of run game, partner that with Aaron Rodgers, then you're going to be lethal.
All right, and then let's go into my New England Patriots. They did some business this week. Like, Jesus.
Busy.
Yeah, that's to put it lightly. 8 players they signed. Let's just rally off some of the players here. You got linebacker Matt Judon from the Ravens. You've got tight end Johnny Smith from the Titans. Nelson Aguilar from the Raiders at wide receiver. Jalen Mills, safety from Philadelphia. Kendrick Bourne, wide receiver from San Francisco. Henry Anderson, defensive end from the Jets. Hunter Henry, tight end from the Chargers. And Devon Godcrow, defensive tackle from Miami. Like this, my opinion on this is people are saying this week, saying, "Oh my God, this is so like the Patriots to do. This is like, why is Bill Belichick now splashing the cash?" It's not. I mean, obviously, you look at it and you've never seen so many players signed at once for the Patriots. But if you look at their contracts, it's not like we've splashed a lot of cash. Like they're all on 2 to 4 year deals, which is normal for NFL contracts. We're not paying them, hundreds and millions of dollars. I think let's have a look here. So Matthew Judon is on for $56 million. Johnny Smith is I think it's undisclosed at the moment. I'm trying to think of some other contracts. Hunter Henry, who's obviously one of the top tight ends in the league, $37.5 million. Like that is a very Patriots thing to do. We don't pay our players a lot of money because they know that they're going to get it in terms of when they win the Super Bowls and when they win games and such like that. It's sort of a thing like Rome wasn't built in a day, but this Patriots team might be because of how Bill Belichick has done, and it's obviously come from years and years and years of saving money on players to then save all this money to then make a big splash in this year's media.
Yeah, definitely. I think I think it was always bound to happen. I think everyone's surprised because it was like another one and another one and another one all on day one, but it was always bound to happen. I don't think anyone expected the Patriots to bring back a similar team to last year because the season didn't work out at all. He's had all the cap space. I think everyone kind of knew it was going to happen, but it is a bit of a surprise to see Belichick just another one after another one after another one, just all of them roll out like that.
No, 100%. And obviously, people are saying that, they've made a lot of good signings, but as a Patriots fan, I look at it as, okay, we've made some good signings and whatnot, but are we now going to focus on ourselves? Like we've got some key players that we need to sort of keep. There's Rex Burkhead, who's a hard-hitting running back for us over the past few years. Jason McCourty, he's been, apart from JC Jackson and Stephon Gilmore, he's been the person to be there. Obviously, JC Jackson only blew up last year, but again, McCourty's still one of those players. Nick Folk, unless we're not going to get a good kicker in the free agency, we sort of need to keep him. And James White. But something I've also heard is we're looking to trade James White for Leonard Fournette from the Buccaneers. Like I think that'd be the icing on the cake for us. Like obviously, I've always loved James White for many years. I've loved James White in terms of how he runs the ball as a person who plays running back in British American football. He's been a person that I've obviously looked to in terms of because he plays for my team. But Leonard Fournette though, like. Wow.
Yeah, I think with Leonard Fournette as well, the whole Brady effect thing might ring true as well. Though I feel like him being around those sort of people in that sort of team with that sort of pressure on him is elevating him a lot. He could do it for the Patriots as well. Of course, he's a ridiculous talent. It's just whether the surround everything's right for him there. Do you get me?
Yeah, but then like I've seen a couple of things that like Brady said like if I think people said like ask Brady if like would he have Lynette or all right. And he's obviously said, like, I'm not going to decide that because that's not fair to either of them. But he's always respected White in terms of, obviously, because he played with Brady for a few years. I think it's a decent trade for the Patriots and the Buccaneers because, Fournette and Brady, I feel like they didn't really run the ball as much, especially in the Super Bowl, because, I don't think the handoff sort of thing is there. Like I look at the handoff situation, it doesn't look as comfortable. But if you're going to get a running back that and you know how he takes the handoff, it makes it a lot easier in terms of training. So if that does happen, obviously it'll be familiarity for Tom Brady, and Bill Belichick's obviously going to play that he's a top player, like you said, and he's a player that he can develop into a better player because that's what the Patriots do. And then we're going to go into the players that have gone elsewhere, and it's quite a long list. So we're gonna do 4 at a time, 4 or 5 at a time, and then we're going to talk about 1 or 2 players within that squad because obviously there's some players that even me and KB don't know in terms of all that. So how long offensive line for Chicago has gone to the Kansas City Chiefs? I know a lot about offensive linemen and stuff like that, but Cal Long is probably, again, he's up there with one of the best linemen that's available in this game. And if you're going to protect a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, who's he's had a few injuries, and they've only been small, but a small injury can develop into a big one. So if you need to protect your quarterback, an offensive lineman like Cal Long is someone that you need. Obviously, we're talking about we talked about last time, when we talked about the re-sign of players with Trent Williams, the same with Jimmy Garoppolo, same with Patrick Mahomes, you need to protect your QB. And then you've got William Jackson III from Cincinnati. He's gone to Washington, cornerback. Curtis Williams, he's is it Curtis Williams? Sorry, my bad. Crap, I've lost my flow. No, it's fine. Where's he going? Oh, I can't see. I can't find his uniform now. Never find his uniform.
I have no idea, to be honest.
It's Curtis Samuel. I knew that in my head, actually. All right, so let's just start again. And so, there we go. So now we're going to look into the players that have gone from their team to somewhere else. So let's start off with Cal Long. He has gone from Chicago to Kansas City. So Cal Long is a defensive lineman. It makes sense that the Kansas City Chiefs have gone for defensive linemen to protect their assets. I've always said this, if you've got a quarterback, you always protect him. This is why Deshaun Watson has sort of wanted to leave Houston, because they've always picked, the defensive players over their offensive line players, because Deshaun Watson was doing amazing things, but he had a really bad line. So it's something that's synonymous with this league. If you have a great quarterback, you protect them at all costs, and that's what Kansas City are doing. William Jackson III, cornerback from Cincinnati, he has now gone to the Washington football team, as well as wide receiver Curtis Samuel. He's gone from Carolina to Washington football team. Then we look at Jamal Williams, running back from Green Bay. He's gone to the Detroit Lions. Now, a few weeks ago, we talked about Adrian Peterson and whether or not he can achieve the Emmitt Smith all-time rushing thing. And I only said that, there's only one person standing his way. But now that they bring in Jamal Williams, this sort of seems like Adrian Peterson's got more work to do in terms of that Emmitt Smith record. So obviously, what's your opinion on these 4 players, KB? If you know any of them, that's completely fine. But what's your opinion on some players here?
I think they're all solid moves. They're all moves that needed to be made. Sorry. I think the Kyle Long one, I think that's probably, if you ask me, that's probably one of the free agency moves that will probably go on, not under the radar, but if there's any big moves, the people will start to forget about it. But I feel like that's probably the biggest one that can make a huge difference for that team.
100%. Kansas City, obviously, they're obviously going to be a Super Bowl contending team for a long time. With when Patrick Mahomes is there, so you need to obviously protect him at all costs. So we're going to the next 4. We have got Shaquille Griffin from this, cornerback from Seattle. He has gone to Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, he didn't really fit into the scheme. I know that his brother obviously is still there. They tried to do like a McCourty sort of thing, two cornerback brothers, but it just sort of didn't work. And obviously, Jacksonville look like they're going to sign Trevor Lawrence in the draft and whatnot. So I think they're trying to boost up their squad. So when Trevor Lawrence does come in, he feels a bit more comfortable because, let's be honest, their squad wasn't all the best last year. Tyrod Taylor, someone who's been moving from team to team already, he is gone from the LA Chargers to Houston, obviously to be the quarterback if Deshaun Watson still goes on strike, if he's not signed somewhere else. But this is Tyrod Taylor's fifth team now, KB. So, could this be his final throwing place?
I mean, he probably hopes it is. I think it's more of the same. It's the same as almost every other move he's made. I think he's there. I think obviously Deshaun Watson's still in Houston. There's rumors that Houston they're not moving him. So if that is the case, he's just gonna be another good number two in it. I think, yeah. I think everywhere he's gone so far, he's been a number two, borderline number one. He can play number one, but if there's someone more promising, they'll probably go with him. And I feel like that's just going to be the case as well, unless they do end up moving Deshaun Watson.
100%. And then obviously the next one is Jacoby Brissett, the ex-Patriots quarterback. He's gone from the Colts to Miami. Now, again, is this a thing of, is he going there to compete with Tua? Because I don't think Miami's fully on board with Tua. I've seen a lot of reports saying they're going to possibly trade him somewhere. I've seen that they're in the Deshaun Watson conversation, but I don't really see that happening because Tua's not he's only played for 1 year, so you don't really know what he's about. But can Jacoby Brissett compete with Tua in terms of the QB1 spot, or do you think they're going to just stick to their guns and because they paid quite highly for Tua? So do you think they're going to stick with him, or can Jacoby compete?
I think Jacoby's going there with the idea that he's going to play. I don't feel like he's going to go there to sit for Tua. I heard the reports as well about them trading Tua. I don't think the players are sold on him as well. I think that's a big thing for like the front office. The players aren't really sold on him. I don't think you get a Jacoby Brissett who's been playing all these years, been starting for the last couple of seasons. So I don't feel like you get him to compete with Tua unless Tua just starts like throwing like he was back at Alabama. Like I can see Tua being benched more likely than Brissett being benched, if I'm honest.
Fair enough. And then I think if we're gonna have to rank some of these prospects, some of these players that have gone to other teams, this is probably up there. One of them, Emmanuel Sanders, wide receiver of New Orleans. He's obviously he might not be on board with the whole Winston thing, but he has gone to the Buffalo Bills. Now, Josh Allen already has Stephon Diggs. What a player like Emmanuel Sanders can only mean good things for the Buffalo Bills, can't it, KB?
Yeah, 100%. It's just they're stocking up on all the talent. They're just getting ready for another playoff run. That's how I see it. I think they've got a very good team already, and they're only a few pieces from being like a real contender. So, and veteran experience, all of it. Like I don't see any losses, like any cons from that move.
100%. And then, so we're going to go on to the next one now. Yannick Ngakoue, the defensive end from the Baltimore Ravens, has gone to the Raiders. Now, the Raiders are, they're sort of a team that bounces up and down depending on how Derek Carr plays. But signing a player like Ngakoue is sort of a smart move. They've not really had a massive defensive impact in the past few years. So signing him sort of means that they're going to start looking towards their defense instead of relying on Derek Carr and that offense to make the work. Then your next up, you've got Hassan Reddick from Arizona. He's obviously a linebacker who's, again, he's been up and down there. He's, he does his job and gets paid and goes home and spends time with his family and whatnot. But he's now going to take his talents to Carolina, which again, it's a smart move. Carolina, again, they're sort of a yo-yo team in terms of coming up and down. But obviously, with JJ Watt coming in, they've sort of had to make a bit of space in terms of money-wise to do that. And because Hassan Reddick's not a top player for them, it makes the right move for them. Then obviously you got Bud Dupree from Pittsburgh. one of the linebackers that I was talking about last week, saying that, this is a good squad that has capabilities all over the team. He's decided to take himself to the Tennessee Titans. So, I don't know if you know, I don't know if you do know about this trade happening, or what's your opinion on that one, KB?
I was gutted when it happened. I feel like Bud Dupree was a big part of why our defense was so good last season. Especially you seen it when he got injured, when he got hurt last season. We did have a drop off. I think he was franchise tagged last season. I'm not 100% sure on that. But so I wasn't too surprised that he left, but it definitely did hurt. I definitely didn't want him to leave.
Yeah, he was franchise tagged last season, and it's the thing with franchise tagging is you love to franchise tag the same player over and over again, but it's more expensive to do that. For people who don't know NFL, how NFL business works is franchise tagging is obviously when you decide to keep a player on a 1-year deal. It's sort of like with football contracts, they have that 1-year extension sort of thing. That's what it is. But with franchise tag is you have to pay them more every time you franchise tag them. I think for every franchise tag, your salary goes up 1.9%. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but it adds up, with certain contracts over the years. And then finally, Corey Davis, wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans, he tends to go to the Jets. Now, the Jets are sort of in a situation now. Like, I thought they're looking to they're looking to get rid of Sam Darnold, but I don't think. But like Sam Darnold said that he's happy at the Jets, and that he has nothing to worry about. So it's like, what do you think's going on in New York? In terms of that side of New York with the Jets, like, is Sam Darnold the QB for them, or are they trying to look for the better deal?
Your guess is as good as mine when it comes to the Jets, if I'm honest. I have no idea. I think with the Jets, it's a case of we know we're not great, and we know that we've kind of been messing up the past couple of years. So we're just going to try and not build a team that's going to win, but build a team that's not going to completely stink. And then as soon as we see a move that makes sense, they'll jump on it. I think the whole Deshaun Watson, I think they were willing to jump on that. But again, I think Houston have been very stubborn with that one. And like I said, Sam Darnold isn't rubbish. He doesn't stink. So he's a good piece for them to have to just keep it somewhat stable. And I think like this is another move that's just going to do that. I don't think they're trying to commit too much one way, so then they're stuck there. But as well, I don't think they're happy with the team that they've already got. So they're trying to just somewhat stabilize it a bit.
100%. And then obviously, let's go into some of, like, I think World's Classes has like the biggest names to come out of this free agency. So let's start off with Ryan Fitzpatrick. So like Tyrod Taylor, he's been a QB who's moved around over the years. But unlike Tyrod Taylor, Fitzpatrick actually gets the starting job sometimes. But this is his 9th team as he moves from Miami to the Washington Football Club. And like I said, the Washington Football Club have done some business this year. So, obviously they've just got rid of Alex Smith, which I'm not going to get to that again. And it's like, this is obviously going to be their starting QB because, Haneke and Josh Allen are not the exciting quarterbacks for them. But is Fitzpatrick that quarterback for them, or is this like a thing of, we're going to have him, he's going to be a roster filler sort of player?
I think it's a bit of both. I think he is a bit of a filler player, but in the division that they're in, they definitely see themselves making the playoffs. They might even see themselves winning a playoff game, maybe depending on who they draw. And I think Fitzpatrick gives them a very good chance of doing that, especially based on the quarterbacks that they had last year. It is kind of an upgrade. So I think it's a good move personally.
100%. And obviously, like I said to you before we started the show and the other week that, Ryan Fitzpatrick might come to the Patriots or something like that. Like, and obviously we re-signed Cam, and it's like, I'm happy about re-signing Cam, because I wasn't sold on Fitzpatrick because he's just, for me, he's not a Patriots QB. He's not a successful winning QB. Whereas Cam Newton, he's not won a Super Bowl, but he's been there and he's been up there for a while. Even from college, when he was at Auburn, he was the main man there, and at Carolina, he was the man there. So, but comparing the two, it's like Ryan Fitzpatrick, I thought Washington's a good fit for him. So it's one of those. And then I'm going to go on to Joe Thuney. a player who I said the Patriots cannot get rid of, but they seem to have done it, and he's gone to Kansas City of all of all teams. And like I said before, the Chiefs are really looking to protect Patrick Mahomes this year. I mean, they've got two amazing offensive linemen this year, in Kyle Long and Joe Thuney. So we're going around in circles a bit here, but they're really looking to protect Patrick Mahomes at all costs, because, like we said, a little injury can turn into a big injury, and when he's on for $503 million over 10 years, you sort of don't want him to leave, sort of to get injured in that sort of sense. But then we've got AJ Green. Now, this is, like I said before, Emmanuel Sanders. This one, for me, tops Emmanuel Sanders. AJ Green from Cincinnati has gone to Arizona. Now, Kyler Murray has already got weapons. Larry Fitzgerald and DeAndre Hopkins, but now he's added a third all-pro wide receiver to that roster. Like, what is going on in Arizona? They've got JJ Watt and now AJ Green's. Like, what's going on in Arizona?
I like it. I feel like they've been building since they brought Cliff Kingsbury in. Was it like about 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
And they drafted Kyler Murray number 1. They were like one of the worst teams in the NFL. I like it when you see like the progression of a team, and especially with a young quarterback there as well. I like what's going on in Arizona. It's a very high-powered, fast offense. A lot of quick throws, a little in between the lines, all them sort of things. I like what's going on in Arizona.
Yes, and then we're going to go on to Patrick Peterson, cornerback for the Arizona Cardinals. He's now not going to stay with them, then go to Minnesota, in a sort of nice little trade deal. He's been a player who, in that defensive line, obviously we talk about the offense and stuff like that, but, defensively, Patrick Peterson's been a name that always pops up. Whenever you watch Red Zone on Sundays or whatever, he's always a person who is making plays or getting interceptions to give Arizona, the decent leads that they do have this season. But let's go into this last one. Andy Dalton has gone from Dallas Cowboys to the Chicago Bears. Now, we said the other week that Russell Wilson is looking to move elsewhere, whether or not it's actually true, or he's just trying to get a big seat at the big boys table. But Chicago was one of those teams that he named to be a place that he'd like to go. So a lot of people thought, oh yeah, Chicago's where he's going to go now. He's stated it, and that's the best fit for him, in a sort of way. But then they've gone for Andy Dalton, who he's. He was at Cincinnati for a while, and he went to Dallas to be a backup, and now he's gone there. It's sort of I think Colin Cowherd said something the other day. It's like saying you're going to get Russell Wilson is like you're going to say to your kids, oh, we're going to go to Florida, we're going to go to Disneyland and Epcot and all this lot. Like, yeah. And then when it comes closer to it, you say, oh, we're going to go to Andy Dalton, which is sort of like going to Wales. Like like a caravan holiday in Wales, like put in a British perspective. Like it's such, how do you go from Russell Wilson to Andy Dalton? Like, really?
I think that's the Bears. I think that's just the Bears. It sums up the Bears. I feel like they're so close yet so far at the same time. It just hurts. I can't help but feel it for them, man.
Like, I said this before the show, I'm going to say it now. Like, if any Bears fans want to change teams, I won't judge you. I really won't judge you, because it's not even like you didn't go for it, because I've sort of seen a lot of reports anyway saying that, you really put in an effort to get Russell Wilson, sorry. You really put a big effort in to get Russell Wilson. And to go from that to Andy Dalton, I won't be surprised. I know you're angry. Don't say you're not angry, because you are angry. But if you want to change teams, I won't be mad. I don't know what KB will think of you, but I won't be mad at you for changing your organization just because of this deal alone. Because you now signed a quarterback who is on. You're not progressing. You're plateauing. Like, you're not upgrading yourself in QBs. Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles. Nick Foles is the highest paid backup in NFL history. Mitch Trubisky is a player who, in college looked really good, but then turned out to be a big flop. And now you're going for Andy Dalton, who he's started to turn into, a Tyrod Taylor or a sort of player, or a Brian Fitzpatrick sort of player. And if you're not careful, you could then start going into a Cleveland Brown situation a few years ago where you're starting going 0-16. Obviously, you have to compete with the Jets or the Jaguars for that spot for a few years. But if you're not careful, you could be in that conversation. What do you think about that one, KB?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I said, with the Bears, they're so close but so far at the same time. I feel like they have got weapons. They have got a useful team that can cause damage, but they really need to sort out that quarterback position. Like they really do.
Number 10. So that is all we've got for NFL news this week. Obviously, that was a lot of news to take in. So please, if you need to go back and rewatch it, please do. But now we're going to go on to football/soccer, however you call it, wherever you're listening from. We're going to go into Gareth Southgate now has picked his 26-man squad for the World Cup qualifiers. And now me and Kay, we're going to look at this squad and talk about the players that are missing and the players that are in there. And we're going to pick an XI from this team. So this is Tal Brown and KB of Tal Talk. Stay tuned for more. So Gareth Southgate this morning picked his 26-man World Cup qualifier squad. And it's not terrible. It's not the best, but I'm happy that it's a qualifier squad. That's all I'm saying. Like, that's all I'm going to say on this matter. Obviously, let's get it up now on the graphics. Obviously, Jordan Pickford and Jack Grealish and Maddison are missing from the squad, sort of thing. So, what's your opinion on this 26-man squad as a whole?
Like you said, it's a good squad. I don't think there's no like shockers in there. There's no one that's missing that I'm surprised missing. There's no one in there that I'm surprised is in there. Actually, there might be one name, but we'll get onto that in a bit. But as a whole, it's a decent squad. It should win the games that we've got coming up.
Yeah. So let's talk about the players that are in the squad and the players that are out of the squad and sort of thing. And when we look at this list, obviously Jordan Pickford is injured for number 1 spot, and obviously I put a thing on the Instagram story the other day and my Facebook one as well, asking if Pickford was your England number 1 or was someone else. A lot of people actually said that Pickford was the England number 1, but now he's not there. It sort of brings you back to, right, well, who is the number 1? Because you look at these 3 goalkeepers and they're not the best that we have to offer, but it's all we've got. So it's going to be a tough pick for Gareth Southgate. Obviously, we'll go through our XI later on. But when you look at Dean Henderson and how he's obviously come back to United from loan from Sheffield United, obviously we're United fans as well and whatnot. So what's your opinion on Dean Henderson as a whole?
I have a very mixed opinion on Dean Henderson. I don't think he's terrible. And obviously he's far from terrible. He's a good goalkeeper. Is he great? I don't know. Is he even as good as I feel like some people make him out to be? I think the jury's still out on Dean Henderson, especially at this level of football. For me, the jury's still out on it.
100%. And then obviously, you look at some of the players that have been brought in, John Stones, Jesse Lingard and Luke Shaw have been recalled into the squad. Obviously, Jesse Lingard has been amazing since he went to West Ham on loan from Manchester United. Luke Shaw has been, well, let's be honest, the best left back in the Premier League this season. Anyone who disagrees with that, then you sort of need to just look in the mirror a little bit and can decide on if that's your right opinion. And John Stones as well for Man City, he's been, since obviously they signed, since he obviously signed his partner in crime at Man City, he's been a fantastic player as well. So are you surprised by these players getting into the squad?
No, I think everyone who's in there definitely deserves it. I think obviously for when he picks his squad, it's based on form. I think a lot of the players in there are definitely add quality to the team. I don't think anyone's in there that doesn't warrant a place or he's gonna touch the field and it's a bit like, why are you even here? I feel like they all definitely have their own qualities.
Yeah, and then obviously we're going to go into players that haven't been to the squad. So I've talked about Jack Grealish and Madison and some players. But then you look at, I just thought about some players then. Trent Alexander-Arnold's not in the squad. Is that because of the Liverpool form that they've been in recently? He's not lived up to the expectation. And then look at Jadon Sancho. Is that because he's not really wanting to leave Germany just yet because of, obviously because of his, the thing that they've got going on at the moment, or like there are some players that deserve to be in the squad, like Jadon Sancho. I would obviously pick him over Ollie Watkins. A lot of people are saying about Patrick Bamford for Leeds. Why is he not in the squad? Because he's been on form scoring for Leeds. So, obviously, I just rattled off a few names there. What about the players that have been left out? What's your opinion on that?
With Trent, I'm surprised that he's not in there. I've not heard anything about injury, but he plays for Liverpool, and how Liverpool are going on, I wouldn't be surprised if he was injured. I think Sancho is injured. I know he didn't play in the Champions League game last week against Sevilla.
Yeah.
Because I turned that on to watch Sancho and he wasn't playing. Grealish has been injured for the past few weeks. I've not heard anything about Madison. I definitely think all of the players that aren't in there that we just said definitely will be in there for a big tournament. I don't feel like like you said, the likes of Ollie Watkins would offer anywhere near as much quality to the team. I think Trent is still our best option at right back. I feel like all of those, if Gareth Southgate doesn't pick those players for the Euros, then we'll be in trouble, if you ask me.
No, 100%. So let's just get into who we would pick for our starting 11. So let's go through the positions like, so goalkeeper, like we said, Dean Henderson hasn't been the most ecstatic player for Manchester United in there. Sam Johnson's, he's sort of just the backup QB, really, isn't he? He's there.
I like Sam Johnston, though. He's another former United keeper as well. When I've seen him play for West Brom, he's a good shot stopper, and he's got a good distribution. I do like him as a keeper, to be honest.
No, yeah, I don't know. Obviously, like you said, he's been a good stopper for West Brom, but then it's like, he's sort of how do you put it? He's sort of like worst case scenario. We've got
he's not starting games.
Yeah, he's not starting. He's not a bad. I was about to say QB then. He's not a bad keeper, but obviously, he's there. He's a good keeper to have in case something happens, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think we'll all agree that Nick Pope is going to be in between the six.
Yeah, I personally would go with Nick Pope. I feel like for Southgate as well, it's the safer option. I do feel like if it comes down to Nick Pope or Dean Henderson in a big tournament, I do feel like the whole Manchester United goalkeeper will play a part into it, especially if Henderson finishes the season as Manchester United #1. I do feel like a bit of the big game, the big team bias comes into it, and I do feel like he does go with Henderson. But I do like Pope.
Right, no, so we're going to put Pope in between the sticks. So left back, I think I explained it, about him being the best left back in the whole league this year. It has to be Luke Shaw, right?
Yeah, I would personally go with Luke Shaw. Yeah, I feel like, and I was one of the people that was slating Luke Shaw a few months ago, but I don't think anyone can deny that the form that he's been in has been amazing. He's probably, other than Bruno, he's been United's main attacking threat, if you ask me.
No, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, I wouldn't say a few months ago, but I said I think last season, 2 seasons ago, I was slating Luke Shaw. But we've seen so much progress from him this year, and like you said, he's been one of Manchester United's top attacking players this season. So it'd be stupid not to put him in the squad. So that's our left back for this squad. So centre backs, Maguire and Stones, right? I mean, obviously, Maguire's made a few mistakes for Manchester United, but he is the England captain by Gareth Southgate's choice, so he has to be in there. And because of Stones' performance in Manchester City, I think again it has to be them two covering the centre.
Yeah, I agree. To be honest, I feel in terms of actually being a solid back four with the options there, the only 2 options are Stones and Maguire. I feel like the both centre backs that do get a lot of stick. But I personally think they're a lot better than people would make them out to be. So I have no problems with Stones and Maguire.
So those are our centre backs, and then right back. We had a bit of a debate about this at the start. I said you could make a case for Eric Dyer in a way, but he does play a bit more midfield. And the same for Kevin Trippier, sort of thing. He had a good World Cup, but obviously the World Cup was so long ago. People bought into the hype a bit too much about Trippier, hence why he's over at Atletico. But we agreed on Kyle Walker for our right back, didn't we?
Yeah, I feel like Kyle Walker somehow has become very underrated by football fans. I feel like when it comes to experience, he's been there, he's done it, he's a Premier League winner. He's still absolutely rapid, which I don't get. I think on the ball, he can have a bit of a lapse of concentration sometimes. But in terms of right backs, I don't think there's obviously better than him, but there's definitely not a lot better than him, if you ask me.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, a lot of people were thinking about Wan-Bissaka being there, but it's been a thing of, like you said, like Kyle Walker's been a player who was talked about being overhyped to now being underhyped in terms of that. And obviously his job, that obviously the thing is though, because Man City have been such a dominant force this year, you can't not pick City players over anything else. I mean, they're on the route to a quadruple. For God's sake, that can't be missed. And obviously the players that are starting on that Man City team, like you said, a bit of club biasry, they have to be in the England squad because of what they've been doing for their club. So obviously, like I said, we've put Kyle Walker in a right back. So we're going for a 4-2-3-1. We feel like with the squad that this, with this 26-man squad, it suits us best. Normally they would go for a 4-3-1-2. We said, wasn't it? In terms of formation, but for this we've gone for a 4-2-3-1. So two holding midfielders. I think it has to be, Declan Rice and Mason Mount in them positions because of the positions that they play for their clubs.
Yeah, they're two players that I love. I love Mason Mount and Declan Rice. I feel like Mason Mount gets a lot of criticism. I think the whole Lampard's son meme on the internet kind of became a thing, and he got a lot of criticism for that. But as a player, I think he's quality. He's good on the ball, 1-2s. He gets into feet a lot. He can run with the ball. I think in forming that base in the midfield is crucial from linking the attacking players to the defensive players, because I do feel like that has been a problem for England. Like, we've got our not solid DMs, but we've got our DMs that are just going to sit there, and then we've got the wingers and the strikers. But there's very rarely that player that can link the two, and I feel like Mason Mount is very good at that.
No, it is 100%. Like you said, the whole Lampard thing probably didn't help, but he's overcome that. Obviously, being under Tuchel, and Chelsea have been sort of they've been an unstoppable force. They're currently fourth in the Premier League now, from being around the 7th, 8th place in the league. And it's he's turned his career around in terms of since Frank Lampard left. In terms of people say that Lampard loved me for some reason, but I'm going to show you that he was right to trust me, and he's done that. And if I was Frank Lampard, I'd be proud of him for getting in the squad. It's a huge achievement, obviously, let alone being for England, but being it from where he was a few months ago. So then we're going to go on to our middle three. So obviously, Bukayo Saka is obviously in this squad. I mean, it's it was bound to happen. He's been one of the best. He's been the best player for me at Arsenal this season because of obviously the situation that Arsenal are in. So he's going to go on the right. Is that right? We're going to agree on that one.
Yeah, I'd put Saka on the right. I think again, he's quality for the age he is as well. And for Arsenal, he's played on the left, he's played on the right. I think he's even played through the middle a bit earlier on in the season. Yeah, I think he's quality. He offers a lot of creative ability, crossing, passing, shooting. He's everything you want, really. So especially with Sancho being out, I think he slots into the right hand side pretty well.
No, 100%. I think that decision has been made easy because I know I've seen obviously since the squad's been released, I've been looking on Twitter and stuff, and a lot of people saying, "Oh, why is obviously this has been because Mason Greenwood has been selected for the under-23 squad," and I feel like that's the right decision to make. Obviously, Greenwood has been he's been a regular starter for Manchester United along with Daniel James, but Man United are sort of I think they're going to probably sign a right mid this season. So to bring Mason Greenwood down to earth, we put him in on 23 squad and we start looking at other options to use him in and stuff like that. It's the best decision for him. Hence why Saka is obviously in the squad and he's in the 23 squad. just to bring a bit back down to earth, because obviously last season he was scoring loads of goals coming off the bench, and the odd start he was getting goals. I feel like Man United fans overhyped him. I knew it would happen because we do it every time. Every time a young player comes in and he does a good job, we overhype him, and then once they go a little bit bad, we sort of blame the manager. But the manager are listening to the fans half the time. But that's just something that Manchester United to work out themselves. But back to the England squad. But speaking of Manchester United, on the left, Marcus Rashford. I feel like it has to be the what's it, MBE or OBE, the left. Go on.
Oh yeah, I think I would go with Rashford. I think again, my opinions on Rashford are very up and down. I think if you look at the numbers, he's having his best season so far. But I think if you watch United every week, he's a 6 out of 10 most weeks, which for me personally isn't good enough. I think it comes down to Rashford or Sterling. I think Sterling's had a bit of a wobble this season as well. I don't know. I think obviously City have been firing, but Sterling specifically, I think he's one where his numbers have gone down. I don't watch City enough to know whether his performances are great, but from what I've seen, he's not missing in games, but those chances at the back post he seems to always get aren't there. So for this squad, I would go with Rashford, just a bit more direct and on the opposition.
Yeah, and then obviously in the middle of these two fantastic players, we've got the Stockport Iniesta, which is Phil Foden. There's nothing more we can say. He has been fantastic for Man City, not just this season, but since he started playing. So I feel like it's a no-brainer just to put him in the middle there, just to supply the ball to the likes of our striker we're going to pick, and Rashford and Saka and stuff like that.
Yeah. Foden, I don't, like you said, what do we even need to say? He's silk. That's what I call him. He is silk. He's left foot, right foot. He can strike a ball. I think a lot of people forget that because obviously the way he plays is dribbling and little passing in between the lines and picking it up on the half turn and things like that. But when he catches a ball, it's goalkeeper has no chance at all. So I feel like in terms of a creative base for that England team, I feel like Foden is the guy, regardless of who's in the squad. I feel like Foden should be the guy.
No, obviously, we go into the Premier League this season for him. 22 matches, 6 goals. It's good for the position that he's in and the age that he's at. Obviously, again, he's surrounded by such amazing players who have been scoring out and out right this season. But it's like you said, it's an obvious choice with no matter who's in the squad, he is that player that's going to be there. And finally, do we have to really talk about other strikers for us? It has to be Harry Kane. Obviously, he's been on form for a Tottenham team that's not really been doing much this season in terms of Premier League anyway. He's not really been, Tottenham not really been the team this season, but they never have been really. But Harry Kane's always been a player that bags goals, and you need that in terms of in tournaments with international players, you need a goal scorer, and Harry Kane is a proven goal scorer.
Yeah, 100%. Don't even need to speak about Harry Kane. He's ridiculous. Everything you want from a striker, he's got. Everything you want from a football player, he's got, in terms of the mental attributes, in terms of leading a team and all of that sort of stuff. He's ridiculous. He's the guy. He's Mr. England. So he has to start.
No, 100%. But yeah, that concludes our England starting 11. Next up, we're going to talk about, this might be a bit controversial for some people, but managers versus referees. There's been quite a bit of controversy going on between managers and referees, but we'll talk about that next up. This is Tyler Brown and KB of Tal Talk. Stay tuned for more. Welcome back, and now we're going to talk about our last football/soccer conversation. And this might be something that a lot of people might not like, but it's something we have to speak about because it's something that's happening recently. So actually, the manager picks his squad at the start of the game. He's on the sideline. He's seen a lot of things that's happened. Obviously, he's naturally going to be biased towards his team and stuff like that. But then something happens in the game that's so obvious that it has to be spoke about to the referee on why they missed it. Because referees have not really been picking up a lot of stuff this season. So when you think about, I'm trying to think of something like there's a decision against Rangers the other week where Steven Gerrard had to go to referee and put his word across, to put it bluntly, and he got a yellow card for it. And it's a thing of why am I just getting cards for speaking their mind against the team? Like, you can't expect them not to, because this is, it's something that they obviously feel deeply about. It's like, what's your opinion on how referees have been performing in football across the world, not even just England, but across the world recently?
I feel I'm with the referees in terms of the whole respect the referees and all of that sort of stuff, and they shouldn't have to go to work and just get screamed and abused all week. I understand that, but I do feel like it's a bit of their own fault, because like all other sports, that was stamped out from early. Do you get me? Like, that was never accepted, so it's not going to be accepted now. Whereas in football, they accepted it for so long, so it's going to be very hard for everyone to now just go, okay, we can't speak to the ref, or we can't say certain things to the ref. But I feel like they really, 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 really aren't helping themselves, because a lot of the time these decisions that are being made are ridiculous. It's not like it's people are just getting onto the ref for no reason. Like, I'm pretty sure Gerrard probably won that game that he went sick at the ref. Do you get me? Like, it's not just for no reason. Some of the decisions that they're making are terrible. And it's almost like we can't say, not even us, the manager can't say, what was that? And they're not going to get any, and it's not right that they're not going to get any explanation. They're going to get told to move away and just deal with it. It's not even like after the game, we get some sort of explanation. I feel like if you're going to have it so that we can't speak to you, you have to explain yourself. Like, you have to, because otherwise it's just a case of them, the referee's going to do what they want and we all just got to deal with it. That's not how the sport works. No one's here to watch the referee. The referee should be the biggest non-factor of the game. Do you get me? So at the end of the game, the fact that we're talking about why did the referee do this and why did the referee do that, and the only explanation we get is a former referee from 10 years ago that now works for BT, it's a load of rubbish, if you ask me.
No, like that is something I've always asked. I said, why are you asking referees from so many years ago, or referees that aren't really playing that game? They can give their opinion all they want, but it's that referee that's in that situation that needs to do it. And obviously, as football fans, we're obviously always talking about VAR and how it's ruining the game and stuff like that. But it does come into it, because obviously I don't know if you watched the Arsenal Tottenham game the other week. Like, there were some very questionable decisions, not given, even like, not given towards Tottenham. In the first half, Jose Mourinho said after the game very jokingly, as he always does, there's no post-match interview with referees, and he said, oh well, there should be. And it's obviously, I'm not saying get the referee, behind a green screen and explain what he's done, but even just like, it's just like a statement afterwards or something. Like, the FA does post a statement from the referee's mouth just saying, listen, this is why I've done it, blah blah blah. That's how it is. The game's over now. Let's move on. But we don't get that. We get an opinion from, like you said, a referee that's not refereed in so long, and rules have changed so drastically, and he's not in the situation. It's and then I think there's something about fans could listen into audio recordings after the game of the referee to then demystify the game, and it's like, we sort of spoke about it in the NBA like the other week, and it's like referees are starting to get a lot more power than they really like they do have a lot of power, but they're getting a bit too much in terms of how they influences the game.
Like I said, it should be a non-factor. What the referee said or did shouldn't impact the result. Well, obviously it's going to impact the result of the game, but it shouldn't be they won because of the referee. That should never be the case.
No, and that's been a thing since VAR came in. It's a case of like, oh, well, we would have won the game if it wasn't for VAR, and it's like it shouldn't. Like, I think it's like, if you look at games before VAR, you look at something like biggest controversy. Like, let's talk about the Sunderland goal versus Liverpool with the balloon accident. Like, would VAR have taken that away? We don't, because obviously it's something that was so visible to the referee that I should have seen, but because he's got someone in his ear saying, no, you can't really, because they look at it every angle possible. Like they obviously go, no, it was going to go out, but the bully knocked it in or something like that. It's just that thing of like the sport is supposed to be free flowing and it's supposed to be fun and enjoyable, but then it's like once you give the referees that tiny bit more power, it might get to a point where it's like American sports where you can't even talk to the referees or you can't even touch them to be like, oh, like, you know, obviously I'm not saying like you're allowed to go to a referee and slap on the back or whatever like that, but you know, you're allowed to like, you know, like touch your shoulder and be like, can I speak to you for a second? That's something I do like about football, that it's kept that interaction between referees and whatnot. But then it's like, you know, going back to American sports, it's you can't once a referee says something, you can't do anything about it. Like,
yeah, I think. Go on,
imagine
sorry.
NFL. Sorry to interrupt you, but imagine NFL, all the players surrounding the referee like that. That would never happen. Like, it's not.
Yeah, no chance.
They all
I
get
think
ejected.
with the whole VAR thing, I don't think like it's give the referees more power, but it's give the referees less of an excuse to mess it up, if you ask me. And the fact that they're messing it up even more, it's just VAR's just highlighted how rubbish the refereeing is, if you ask me, because it's all VAR is instant replay, CCTV, hindsight. Do you get me? That's all it is. So if you can get hindsight, they always say hindsight is 2020. Do you get me? So if you've got the hindsight and you're still messing it up, there's serious problems. And the problems isn't VAR, it's the referees. The referees, if you ask me, just aren't good enough. The rules are a bit unclear, which doesn't help the referees, but the referees just aren't good enough, if you ask me. Like, a lot of it, I think the communication does come into it, but just refereeing the sport, they're not good enough. I don't see how, if you know the rules of the game and you have a replay of every single angle in slow motion, if the result of those two things is still the wrong outcome, then the referees just aren't good enough. Because I don't get it. How can you know all the rules, see the replay of exactly what happened, and still get it wrong? If you're still getting it wrong, the referees are rubbish. That doesn't make sense. It's like me giving you a question, there's the calculator, there's how to work out the answer, and you still get it wrong. That's not my fault. You're not doing it right. Do you get me? Like,
100%.
the refereeing just isn't good enough.
But then, like, you know, the FA recently, especially in the past few recent years, I've seen so many reports of, you know, the FA wanting, you know, more people to take up refereeing and stuff like that. And I think there's something going to be called at the end of this season about young Premier League players mandatorily having to take a refereeing course in case, obviously, their career goes south and then they can go into refereeing. But then it's like, are the referees getting the right teachings in terms of everything? Are they getting taught right? Because like you said, they're getting, you know, they know every rule and they're getting a massive multi-billion, million, probably, you know, million, billion sort of piece of technology, and they're still getting it wrong. So does it come down to the teaching of referees in that sense?
I think it must. Obviously, I've not done any refereeing courses, so I don't know exactly what they're being taught. But I just feel like VAR's just highlighted how poor the refereeing is. Because, like you said, with the whole Sunderland balloon goal, if the referee gets it wrong, it's like, oh, he's in the moment. He can't look back at it. He has to make a quick decision, or we get it if he gets it wrong. I think that's happened with a lot of things, like dubious penalties and stuff like that. It's like the ref you couldn't see it properly. It's going quick. You've got to make a quick call. It's okay if he gets it wrong. But VAR's eliminated that excuse. And the fact that they're still getting it wrong, a lot of people are now on the refs as in to say, how are you still getting it wrong? I think that's what makes a lot of people a lot more angry about it as well, because you have the VAR and you're still getting it wrong. It's terrible. So it must be how they're taught, but I don't know.
No, 100%. And obviously, you know, like going back to the fact of VAR, and it's like, you know, obviously at the start, referees were reluctant to use it. That the screen's there on the side, and I still think now, to be fair, referees don't really use that screen on the side, to go and double check things. You only get, I think it's, you know, I think there's been one game where they've actually shown us. I think it was in Championship or League One. They showed us the audio like goes from a referee from the VAR box to the referee saying, "Come over to the screen and check."
Mm.
And it's like that should be regular. That should be mandatory. Doesn't matter if it's
Yeah.
like the referee automatically. So when VAR goes, we're going to check it. The referee goes straight over to the screen.
Yeah, I don't see why it's the case of, okay, we're going to check it, then you can look at it. If the game stopped, there's no reason as to why the referee can't take a look at it. There is no reason at all.
Yeah, because then he can then go, you know what? No, like, you know, like, because then like, say the VAR like is still deciding, you go, you know what? I can see here. Let's stop wasting their time. I can actually see what's happened there. I'll take the vote if it is indeed wrong, but I can see, in my opinion, here right now. And then you're not waiting like 10 minutes for a result of a penalty or something like that to go on, because that's one of the biggest things. It takes up so much time. You know, you think about when you're at a game, you know, nowadays, like, you know, say it's a late kickoff and you know traffic's gonna be bad as it is. You'll be stuck an extra 10 minutes there like, because you know, especially if your team's losing, you'll be stuck there for an extra 10 minutes because of VAR. But like we said, you know, it's a big thing in referees in many sports, but in football, because it's changing so much. Like other sports have got it locked down. I think like it's like a no nonsense thing. But with football, there's too many loopholes and leeways in between it to, you know, to get themselves in that much trouble when they shouldn't be getting that much trouble for it. But like I said, we'll have to see what happens in the next few years or so, in terms of how we can, you know, how the sport can manage itself. And that is all for our football/soccer news. Next up, we're going to talk about our last story of the day. Dame Lillard. Obviously, he's been such a detrimental player to the Blazers for so many years. But now that it's coming to a possible MVP conversation, are the Blazers holding him back from being that top player? This is Tal Brown and KB of Tal Talk. Stay tuned for more. So our last story today is going to be talking about Dame Lillard. Yesterday, so this is Wednesday, so he balled out 50 points in one game after being down 17 points against the Pelicans, to put him up there in the MVP race after Joel Embiid has obviously got himself injured. But I thought, you know, he's because he almost got snubbed in the All-Star game this year, or almost did. Like, are the Blazers holding him back, KB, from the MVP award, or is it just a case of he's just getting overlooked because there's so many good or better players in the league?
I think with Damian Lillard, the talent is undoubted. I think for me personally, the talent has always been undoubted, because I know for a fact a couple of years ago he wasn't making All-Star team simply because there were so many other point guards in the West. When it comes to the whole, is the team holding him back? I don't think it's fair to say the team's holding him back, because Damian Lillard wouldn't drop 50 if the team wasn't geared for him to drop 50, if you get what I mean. Like, that team is built to get the best out of Damian Lillard. But when it comes to awards like MVP, I feel like the way that the media looks at it in terms of the team record, I think him even being in Portland, that plays into it. He's not in a big market, big flashing lights, all of that sort of stuff.
Portland's never been a big market in any sport, so
yeah,
be part of the only the only big team. It's like when you think of, because Portland has the ability to host a lot of other teams. I talk about Austin, Texas, because I lived there for a little while, but it's synonymous with it, because Austin's only known for college football. It can is obviously they're going to get a football team I think it's next year they launch their MLS team, but it's like they've got the capacity to be such a bigger sporting city. But again, Portland, they've just not got that. They've got the MLS team as well, but they're not the best team in the MLS. So it's something like that. Continue.
Yeah, it's just I think it's just the way that the media looks at the awards like the MVP. I feel like that's why he doesn't win it, simply because the team record's not always going to be great. The West is loaded, like it's ridiculous. So the team record's not always going to be great. And as you said, the city's not the biggest market. So I think that in terms of the media, they're holding him back. But in terms of purely basketball, that team is built for Damian Lillard to do what he does. So I don't think it's wholly fair to say that the team's holding him back, because Damian Lillard might Damian Lillard might not be dropping 50 if they had a team like the Nets. Do you get me? So, and then he would never have an MVP bid to even talk about. So I do think it is a bit unfair to say the team is holding him back. But the way the media looks at it, I guess that is the case.
No, obviously, like after the game, I didn't watch the game in its entirety. I watched like highlights when it came up on my Instagram feed. But then you look at like Shaquille O'Neal, obviously up there with some of the greatest NFL and NBA players of all time. He expressed his major support for his MVP case. Because like we said, Damon has been in the league for I think it's his 9th, 10th year, something like that. Like he's been in the league for a while, so when you think of how the NBA works, and like I said, the West is so loaded with better players and with similar sort of players. Lillard's just sort of like I think it just goes back to how the Blazers represent themselves as a team because like they're not like other teams. Like you think of the Nets now. The Nets are obviously I said last week they've gone from a big three to a big four. You got LeBron and AD and you got Steph Curry and Draymond and all. There's always another player to back the big player up, but because Portland isn't an attractive place, not the good players that the better players don't go to Portland because they know that it's not marketable for them. Because that's how sports works now. It's all if you can market that place or you can market that player. That's how it seems. And obviously, when you think of going to Portland, you don't think, oh yeah, I could be the main man at Portland. But you have to, it's like I said, I do agree with you in terms of it's not the Blazers holding him back. It's just the fact of Portland being Portland sort of thing. But it's, we'll have to see how the rest of the season goes on. But like I said, Joel Embiid's obviously gone injured, so that's sort of going to take him out of the race now because these last games are where you make your MVP status, isn't it, KB?
Yeah.
Then obviously, you've got Nikola Jokic and obviously LeBron. I don't really think I need to say his name, but but you have to. But it's going to be interesting to think how the rest of the season is going to go with Jokic for the Nuggets and LeBron's obviously going to keep balling out. Can Damian Lillard keep this up and have the surrounding players around him help him keep himself up for that MVP chase? We'll have to see, won't we? Really. Yeah, like anything else you got to say on this matter?
I don't think there's a standout for MVP. I can't lie, I'm leaning towards James Harden though. I don't know why. I just think what he's done. Obviously, he's with the Nets, and the Nets are ridiculous and they're stacked. And some people say that makes it easy or whatever. But what he's done the numbers he's put up since he's gone there are absolutely ridiculous. And Kyrie's been a bit in and out. Durant's out right now. I think they're saying another 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, he's not playing since February.
Yeah. So, but what James Harden's done since he's gone there has been, I feel like numbers wise, is better than what anyone else has put up in the league, and it's ridiculous. Yeah, and this is maintained as well. It's not like it's anything new for James Harden. So, yeah, I think I personally I'm leaning towards James Harden.
No, 100%. And I was originally going to go with down the James Harden route, but because I've done quite a lot of net stuff this year, it's just starting to become a bit biased. But let's just go into James Harden a little bit, if you don't mind. But I think yesterday he put up a 40-point triple-double against the Pacers to win 24-15. Like I said, the number he is putting up is amazing. Do you think because he's gone to a team that suits him, because with the Rockets he didn't really like the Rockets, let's be honest, towards the end of his career, his time there, like are the Nets like a team that's letting him do whatever he wants because the Houston Rockets never let him? Like obviously he'd shoot threes and that's what he's known for, and the all travel and stuff like that's that's what obviously memes and stuff like that go off because it sort of runs a bit of truth. But now he's at the Nets, he's sort of become a different player, but with the same tactics, if you know what I mean. So like, he's just sort of elevated himself, doing the same things at the Houston Rockets, but because it's at the Nets, and the Nets have got such a great supporting cast behind him, with the likes of Kyrie Irving and now Blake Griffin, like what do you think's happening with James Harden? Do you think it's just because he's been great for this long, and it's only taken the Nets to bring out his proper potential? Obviously, he's had potential for a while, but his proper potential in terms of the points he's putting up. Or do you think it's just happened because it's happened, like sort of thing?
I think he's not. I don't know if he's doing anything different. I don't think he's doing anything majorly different from what he was doing in Houston. I just feel like some might say it's easier for your numbers to go up when you play with better players, and in some sense it is. But when you're James Harden, I don't think it's easier to go for your numbers to go up when your teammates is Kyrie Irving. Do you get me? I think he's not gonna have the ball as much. I think he had the ball, like, I don't know the numbers, but his usage while he was in Houston would have been ridiculously high. I think so. I think him going to the Nets and still doing what he was doing, 40-point triple doubles, getting to the rim whenever he wants, shooting high percentage free throws. I think going to the Nets and doing it when he's definitely not going to have the ball as much. There's just as much, if not more, pressure on him, because now it's like it's championship or bust. Now you've got to show up. So I think feel like for him to go there and do what he's doing, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think he's still leading the league in assists, or he's there or thereabouts. He's shooting less, but his percentages have gone up. If I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that. So yeah, for me, James Harden, it's ridiculous what he's doing so far this season.
No, 100%. And it's James Harden has always been like a top player, but I think with this Nets team, because like you said, with this point guys he's just elevating himself to a better position. But that is all we've got time for today. Unfortunately, we would normally go into a big talk conversation, but we've had to discontinue it just due to the current situation in the UK with coronavirus starting to lift. Mine and KB's time is obviously limited because we've obviously got other lives and other jobs apart from this. But so that is all we've got time for today. Thank you so much for watching today. Please do not forget to do the few things that we've asked you to do, like, subscribe, and hit the little bell for notifications on future videos. And also, when you're on Instagram tonight, because we know you will be, don't lie to us, give TYB_talk a follow. That is right, TYB_talk. And we've also put our personal accounts in there for you to follow us as well. Also, KB, you've got your own podcast as well. Please tell us a little bit about that you do as well.
Yeah, I have started the Warm for Them podcast. For those of you that aren't Jamaican Caribbean, Warm for Them means like what's wrong with those people. So we started that podcast. It's basically free talk about absolutely everything that's going on. I think we record every Sundays. We're actually live on stereo, but just hit up the Instagram WFD podcast and you'll find everything there.
Yeah, so obviously you use the Stereo app, which obviously is like, it's a great tool for live podcasting between two people who cannot be together, or if they are together, it's even better. But give that a listen to. I've listened to the past 2 episodes. It's a great ride that you guys are doing there, and I hope it obviously progresses. But thank you for coming on the show, KB, once again. Obviously, you'll be on for future shows. And this has been Tal Brown and KB of Tal Talk. Thank you, and we'll see you guys next week.